What's going on, everyone? Lalit here. How to beat the stock market? It's been a question since the dawn of time. And so today we'll be talking about not only how to beat it, but how this strategy, this method that we're talking about, can change your life forever. From your day to day, week to week, year to year, we're talking about a lifestyle change that can be made and for the better of you, your family, and so much more. So, with that, what we're talking about today is going to be none other than covered calls. Covered calls are an option strategy, and we talk about it more in detail, talking about calls versus puts. Do check that out below. And I mention it in my 7 streams of income video, as well as 5 ways in which I make money in the stock market. But with that, today we're using a small account as an example to show kind of the mechanics for beginners and how they can do it too. But moreover, in focus today, we'll be talking about Palantir Technologies, ticker symbol PLTR, and we'll be reviewing some trades and go over the history, as well as wrap up with some pros and cons and why this strategy is the best and it's super easy to execute. But with that, if you're new to the channel, we talk about stocks, credit, personal finance in general, and so much more. But with that, I'll see you on the other side.
All right. So here we are with Palantir Technologies, and it's a recent IPO stock. It IPO'd on September 30th, and feel free to forward to the timestamp below, but I'll give a quick rundown of Palantir stock here from a price action standpoint. So it IPO'd at $10 even, and it hit a floor over here on $9. And ever since then, it's been hard to reach that $9, and it's been in that range of 9 to 10, 9 to 10 kind of range. And essentially over here in October 26th, I remember this date specifically, and we'll get to this soon enough. Basically, it broke out and it went past that $10 range, and it's sitting here today at $14.80, and it hit a high earlier today of around $15.32 if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so let's go into the history and see what happened. So here we have it. September 30th, it IPO'd at $10, and to do a covered call or an option contract in general, we're talking about 100 shares. And having a covered call means that we'd have 100 shares, and then we would sell a call in order to get that premium from the other side, in order to give our right for our shares to be sold at a certain price, at a future date, at a future price to that other party. And so we started averaging in over here. So I remember right here on the IPO date, bought it at $10 and a penny. It IPO'd at 10. So we had 10 shares and then kept going like this down and down until we got 100 shares. And so fast forward, our average cost was $9.42 per share. And so $9.42. And the important thing is, when a stock IPOs, options aren't available until a minimum of 3 days after the stock IPOs. And so I was eagerly waiting to sell a call to start getting that income off of Palantir stock. And so finally on October 6th over here, we sold our first contract, and it was at $20 on $9.42 a share. So essentially I paid $9.42 up front in terms of total cost on my principal, and we received $20 for that matter. And so it was there on 10/16 to expire. We bought on October 6th, and so 10 days later it expired, so zeroed out, so we kept the full of our 20. And so over here, I remember putting a limit order trying to sell for the next week. And so over here, we collected $18, and it was to expire a week after that. So our 10/16 contract expired. Then we got to 10/23, and I was selling at that same $10 strike price. So if Palantir were to end up 10 or greater, my shares could be assigned, aka I wouldn't have them. But in this case, I had kept them for the first week, and the second week I got 18. And then fast forward, I got actually the full premium for the third week of $25 over here. But as we talked about that date earlier of October 26th, over here I had an assignment basically saying that $10 was the agreed upon price I would let go of my Palantir shares, and Palantir naturally closed above that. And so I didn't see any upside after the $10, but I got to keep the premium all up till then. In addition to the fact that my shares were an average cost of $9.42, you're talking about $10 minus $9.42 means $58 in terms of that profit of the shares sold themselves. And in premiums, we got $18 plus 20 plus 25, totaling $633 in premium. And with that other sale of the actual stocks themselves, then we're talking about $58 roughly. But as we see, Robinhood takes a 4 cents over here. So net, when we do the math, we're talking about 13.27% return, aka $120.96 divided by 942, and that's how I got that number. So it's a mix of the profits from the selling of shares plus the premiums we got. And this was in a time frame of, if we see October 26th and Palantir IPO'd September 30th. So not talking about any planning before the fact of September 30th, but basically our money has been in action for a little less than a month, and getting that return is pretty cool. So building upon the Palantir example, and generally with covered calls, there's pros and there's cons, and so go over them briefly. And we'll start off with the pros. Regarding them, got 3 of them. One is you're getting that premium and it's 100% guaranteed. So what does that mean? It means that when you get that premium, it's added to your buying power. It's essentially cash, and you can use it however you like. You can use it to reinvest, you can go spend it, you can do whatever you want. But net, the point is, as we get these premiums, they're basically decreasing our average cost. And so although I spent $942 for 100 shares of Palantir, so average cost is $9.42, in premiums we collected $63. And so it's basically 63 cents a share. So 942 minus 63 is $8.81 a share as our average cost for our 100 Palantir shares. Which leads us to our second advantage, which is basically that since our average cost was 942 and I purposely was picking a contract price above the actual price of our average cost, aka our strike price was above the average cost. And so with an average cost of 942 but picking a strike of 10, anytime that would have executed, which it did eventually, it's $10 minus $9.42 a share. So no matter what, when it would be assigned, if and when, there's guaranteed of that profit margin right there as a second advantage with covered calls. And so finally, this isn't the case with Palantir, but there's stocks that pay dividends like your Coca-Colas of the world, your Exxons, etc., and numerous other stocks naturally too. And so when doing covered calls with these type of dividend paying stocks, since you own the stock, you're actually getting that dividend because you're already in possession of the stock because you have it, and you're not waiting to get assigned. You have them and they're waiting to be assigned to someone else. And so that could have been a potential other income stream by just holding on to the stock. Even though it's bided by a contract, you're still getting that dividend because it's rightfully yours. On the con side, naturally, we got Palantir being taken away, and so when it was assigned, it was far above that $10 mark, so there was definitely money left on the table. But at the same time, that was another reason why I personally chose a strike price like $10 when I had that average cost of $9.42 versus getting more premium, but then choosing a strike price of maybe $9.50, for example, because although I'd get more upfront, just given how it was in its IPO nature and what I kind of expected the stock to do, kind of did that. It went towards that 10 boundary. It did break out just given the way the expirations of the contracts work. But net, I sacrificed more that heavier premium upfront at $9.50 a strike, for example, and let it ride out to 10 if it went. But then if and when it did that, it would definitely give me a higher profit margin overall consideration of the stock actually being sold. And the second con on this list of cons for covered call / Palantir in general is that as that stock was climbing up, basically that premium that I received, as the stock price goes up, the covered call, aka that call option price, would go up as well. So let's say I was super bullish on Palantir thinking it could go to whatever price I wanted it to, but the point is, if I didn't want it to go away, what would I do? I would need to buy to close my position. And so on that final contract, I got $25 in premium. But for an example, and I don't remember specifically, but for example, let's say the contract price went up closer to $40 or $50, which is realistic. And to my memory is actually closer to 90 cents or $1. So it's crazy that there was that huge extra premium that I would have received if I had opened a contract then. But in this case, I got $25 and that's fixed. But now the contract was trading towards $100. So what this means is if I wanted to keep my shares, I would need to buy out my contract, aka I received 25, but I would need to spend 100 to close it. So net, I would lose 75 cents. So technically you can look at it as I'm increasing my average cost by 75 cents by closing my contract. But then if Palantir is going to go up $1, $2, $4, $5, like it is now, it's $14.60 compared to $10, it's worth it back then to close it. But naturally, this wasn't my line of thinking. I just didn't know what would happen. And so net, I took the credit. I let it be assigned, not an issue. But I went in knowing that, hey, it could be assigned as we go on with the weeks and as Palantir's price potentially goes up, etc., etc. Covered calls are amazing because you already have the stock, and under the conditions that you already were going to have it and you already were going to purchase it, you might as well get paid an extra passive income source through it. And like this, you can actually decrease your average cost. You're getting real cash flow, and moreover, you can make more investment decisions, as well as more actually buy the same stock if you want, etc., etc. There's a lot of benefits, and overall, if you don't want to keep the shares and you don't really care, this method is awesome because you're going to get paid regardless. And if you really never want to let go of those shares for whatever reason, then sure, maybe you don't want that risk of assignment. You can always do out of the money calls, aka pick a strike price that's super far away, that's highly unlikely to get there. But in the end, regardless, it's a great strategy. You're getting real money. You already own the stock. You can get dividends on top of it, etc., etc. I only see an upside unless you really want to keep those shares. So with that, thank you so much again. You know how it is. And drop any questions in the comments below. Happy to answer. But with that, cue the outro. Peace.